very good evening, everyone, and I welcome you all to this episode of the talk show presented by the Mental Health Unit of the Rotaract Club of Caduceus. And this episode is based on the topic of mental health in men. So today's episode is being conducted in collaboration with the WeWolf Mental Health Organization. So, few words about WeWolf. It's a mental health organization which was established amidst the pandemic to make the mental health support accessible to all. This is a group of really dedicated mental health professionals who aim to provide psychoeducation and promote mental health well-being among all age groups. So we have 5 of our guest speakers from WeWolf. We have Miss Arshia, who is a compassionate mental health counselor who aspires to combine the best of both psychology and education to enrich lives. She has a special interest towards languages, and she's trained in a variety of counseling and psychotherapeutic approaches like CBT, cross-cultural counseling, art therapy, music, movement therapy, psychological first aid, and psychometric assessment. And we have Ms. Theetchatha. She's a counseling psychologist who emphasizes the importance of mental health by always saying it's okay to not be okay. She has gained experience in the field of school, marriage, relationship, corporate, child, and adult counseling, which were her passion, focuses on. And her ideology of you are not alone and her positive energy attracts people towards her, and she passes on the same to others to help them. And we have Ms. Jama, who has completed her master's in applied psychology, specializing in counseling, and she has studied in psychology in her undergraduate level as well as in high school. And it was when her passion and love for psychology started, which was at the age of 16. And she is also heading the content writing team at the WeWolf organization. And we have Ms. Arthika, who is a trainee counselor by profession, and she's currently sprinting towards the end of her master's in counseling psychology. Through her education and work experience, she has evolved in counseling individuals with intricate emotional needs. And we finally have Ms. Nandini, who is a trainee counselor currently pursuing her final year master's in counseling psychology. Her therapeutic orientation lies in an integrated and holistic approach. She's skilled at cognitive behavioral therapy and art therapy. Her area focuses relationship counseling, individual counseling related to anxiety, stress, and work-life problems. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. It's indeed our pleasure to have you all here with us today. And we also have student panelists who are a bunch of really passionate medical students. We have Rotaractor Amlesh, who has been a past president at Rotaract Club of Caduceus. We have Rotaractor Joshua, who is currently the sports director. And we finally have Rotaractor Saurabh, who is the director of professional development here. Thank you so much for joining all 3 of you. And I request you to please feel free to share your opinions during this session. So without any further ado, we'll be beginning with our very first activity of this session. So let me explain the rules first of all to you. It's kind of similar to rapid fire game. And each one of you, the guest speakers, as well as the student panelists, you will be given one question that you are supposed to be answering in less than 30 seconds. And even our audience, you are also, I encourage you all to do participate. You can send in your answers through the chat box. So we'll begin. So first of all, I'll be beginning with the student panelist, and I think we can go with the alphabetical order. So Amlesh, would you like to go?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. So my first question, what's your idea of masculinity in one word?
I guess being a gentleman, that's very important, I believe. So yeah, I think that's what masculinity really embodies, gentlemanliness, if that's the word. Yeah.
Okay, so what's your idea of gentlemanliness? Could you elaborate that?
Sure. Being respectful of others equally, of everyone of all genders, all gender preferences, being sensitive towards everyone else and everything that's going on in the world. I think that sensitivity is a very big asset to carry forward with yourself. Then being understanding of people's needs, people's emotions, where people come from, and being expressive. I think being expressive in the right way, not being abusive, using whatever privileges you have been given to using them in the right way and helping other people out. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was really well said. So next participant, Joshua, please unmute yourself. So my question for you is, what's your idea, or what exactly comes to your mind when you hear the phrase man up? So in one word, could you describe that feeling? What comes to your mind?
So as far as my upbringing goes, which is like from the 2000s onwards in my childhood, when someone tells me man up, it's the one word I would say is toughen up. So basically what it is that when I am faced, or any person is faced with a difficult situation, then at that point of time when someone tells them to man up, it's basically telling them to dump whatever emotions they are feeling and telling them to demonstrate toughness as well as courage when they are faced with that situation, which is really which really in fact, more than moralizing them, demoralizes them by saying that, whatever emotion you're showing is what this society is actually rejecting, so you should change it.
Okay, thank you so much, Joshua. That was really well said. So, moving on to our next participant, Saurabh, please unmute yourself. So, my question for you is one thing you like about being a man? The first thing that comes to your mind. Yeah.
Probably, less pressure to marry and have kids. As simple as that. So that is the first thing that would come to my mind.
Yeah, that was really well said. That was awesome. Like, I totally agree with that. So, now moving to our guest speakers. So, Arshia, ma'am, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so my question for you is the first thing that you would say if I ask you the one thing you like about being a woman.
Innate, capability to care for others and provide that unconditional love to others, being able to give birth to another life. All of these are some really special things which we somewhere miss to cherish in our life and acknowledge or appreciate those qualities. So that is what I love about being a woman.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was really beautiful. So my next question is for Artika, ma'am. Is if there's one thing you could change about your childhood, what would it be?
Would probably change my school where I studied because it was a lot of pressure. So I would do that. Changing of my school would be the first thing. If I want to think about my childhood, the first thing that comes to my mind is the school environment. So apart from that, my play and everything was really good. So I think that's the one thing that I wanted to change if I had a
Thank you
chance.
so much, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay.
So now proceeding to our session. So like we discussed about our feelings of being a man, woman, the various gender norms. So somehow the various gender norms, the way we are all brought up, it really impacts us psychologically. For example, certain phrases like man up or you are not supposed to cry if you are a man, they kind of have they can have a worse impact on our minds, I believe, on the minds of the young boys. So according to you, our guest, like what do you think led to such belief systems that about the manliness or why the men are not supposed to cry and all, and how does that really impact us?
Yeah. So to this question, there is a statement called "men shouldn't cry," right? So there's a strong word here like "should," right? So how do we free ourselves from the tyranny of "should" and "must" first? Can it be like what can I say? We can try expressing our emotions, right? Should is something an order statement, right? Am I audible?
You are.
Okay. So big boys don't cry. Okay. So first, to understand the statement, where is this coming from? It's a conception from the ancient times that feminist characters are like caring, kind, sensitive. They are empathetic towards others. Whereas when you see the other part, like masculine traits, it's like tough, strong, aggressive, stoic, right? The problem with these traits is that it's made up of constructs, right? Which is dictated to a patriarchal society. When in reality, these are just the concepts or the notions that the culture have created, right? So talking and feeling about your emotions, as in like talking and expressing about your emotions, does not make you any less of a man or a woman, right? The idea of not struggling and showing emotions caters to the toxic masculinity. So to understand more about toxic masculinity, I would like to ask you what about to the participants, what do you understand about toxic masculinity?
Toxic masculinity, to me, it's a very like masculinity in general is a very regressive term that is like a trait. So it's like a socially regressive trait that serves to foster the it causes the domination and devaluation of women, and it can also lead to homophobia and wanton violence. So like, why is this? So basically, masculinity mainly almost always, as far as every man's childhood is concerned, is focused on strength. It's focused on lack of emotion, so focused on self-sufficiency, and it's focused on dominance and leadership. If you have these traits, then it basically is counted as masculine. So when you are presented with such a basic trait that you have to be like this, is when you tend to feel like have to stand above others, which in itself is very wrong.
So yeah, as very well said by him, masculinity becomes toxic when men feel they need to conform to the rigid gender norms that we have created, that we as a society has constructed, right? So example like restraining one's emotion and expressing only pride and anger. Like men are only accepted to express pride and anger, which are only the acceptable emotions by the society, and rest all the emotions are restrained. Right. So this is one of the example. So can you guys think about any other examples like this is something where I see it is a toxic masculinity. One thing is like only expressing this emotion and not to cry. So I mean, I also hear statements like a man who is extremely built, body built, have a good physique with six packs and everybody, they are seem to be very strong, right? Society says, "Oh, you are kindly strong. You are a man. Why do you want to cry? Why do you want to break down before everybody in the family?" Right? This is kind of a notion. Again, it comes from the society. So because of this, men used to suppress a lot of feelings, right? The feelings are getting extremely suppressed, and they manifest symptoms in very different ways. Right, and this manifestation of symptoms resort to violence. It can be physical violence, domestic violence in families, abuse, right? Physical abuse, verbal abuse, substance abuse, right? I mean, why the drinking habits or the addiction comes, where does it come from? When you suppress all your feelings and emotions, it just talls up, right? Your emotions get talls up and you end up in drinking, right? And there is also one more way of this, what can I say? The projection of this anger or the suppression just comes out through reckless behavior, like driving very recklessly, and all these risky behaviors are also the because of the suppression of feelings, right? And to talk about other things like low self-esteem, body image, even body image went through go through a lot of body image difficulties, right? And one more thing that I have seen off late with men population is that unemployment. They have lost job or imposed, especially unemployment with the working men, and what can I say? What is that term? I was just forgetting. Okay, unemployment because of the pandemic. That clients who come to me with a concern telling, I lost my job, and my relatives are asking me, why are you sitting in your home and just not doing anything? And they're not even okay to express how they feel. They just wanted the man to run behind the work, and they're not given time to even rest for some time, right? And these are again the rigid gender norms that the society have created, and men are not able to. I mean, not follow it. I mean, I'm not saying they have to follow it. They are expected to follow, right? Yeah. So when you see about the symptoms, about how does the suppression of feelings affect physical symptoms, mental symptoms, I mean psychological symptoms can be like depression, anxiety, and all the other things, especially sexual dysfunction. This sexual dysfunction is of late very common because of suppression of emotions and feelings. Research says that. And digestive problems, and this can lead to projection of anger towards family members. Let's say that my father is extremely, I mean, like he's working for more than 12 hours and he's not able to relax. Where does the projection of anger happens? Towards the kid, obviously, right? So these are the things that off late happens, and almost happens for a long period of time. And also, I think family plays a major role here. Like I feel like most of the Indian families, Desi families especially, there is no safe space created for a person or a male kid to be emotionally vulnerable to the parent, right? And I mean, there are people who have family time, but also there is a kind of sibling comparison there. Okay, your sister can cry, but you are not supposed to cry because you are man. You have attained your puberty, you are now a man, and you're not supposed to cry, right? This is some of the reasons why men actually don't cry, or the society tells them that they shouldn't cry, right? A recent research says 25% men live with mental illness, and they're 4 times more likely to die by suicide because of suppression of feelings, right? So what can we do exactly? What do you think we can do about this? Okay, we were talking about how we can manage this, right? So I would say, I mean, we have to understand, we have to first be empathetic that they are also human. They do go through emotions, they do have feelings, like how regardless of the gender, everybody have emotions and feelings, and we shouldn't try to be very tough on it. I mean, understand that you're going through this and you have to try to come out of it if you need a professional help, right? But also here, I understand it takes a lot of courage to seek help, but don't hesitate in finding it, right? Therapy is for everyone, regardless of gender. Reach out to the safe space to express yourself. And if you think you need someone professional, please feel free to reach out to therapist or anybody who, if you need especially a professional help, please feel free to reach to a therapist and talk about it. It's nothing going to affect you personally if you do that.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you so much, ma'am. So my next question for you all is like, how far do mental health patterns vary in men and women, and like how are they exactly the coping mechanisms? How do they exactly vary in both of them?
So when it comes to men and women, it's not like they have particular patterns or something. It is more according to their age group. So when you take children have more of behavioral issues. Like you take conduct disorder, it's more prevalent among boys. So kids, more often they are aggressive, they possess antisocial behavior, and that is more among boys than girls. And when it comes to adolescents, like depression is more prevalent. Depression, eating disorder, they're all more prevalent among both boys and girls, and they engage more of an suicidal ideation, and boys they attempt suicide, and this has become in a large number in the recent days. And like boys experience more problems with anger, engage with high risk behaviors, and more often commit suicide, and more frequent than girls. So when it comes to adolescent, it's girls are prone to taking things more like internal feelings, and and boys make it more external, as in, they act it out being more aggressive and stuff, but girls don't do it very often. So that is how things go out. And when it comes to adulthood, there are many reasons why what people go through the patterns, like depression or anxiety. It's more high in women basically, but recently this use of substance abuse or employability issues or relationship issues, family issues, more often it affects men also in the recent time. And to be honest, many research have like quoted saying that a mental disorder called schizophrenia is more like prevalent among boys. The start of the symptoms is more prior in boys than in girls. And when it comes to bipolar disorder, it's more prevalent, and the onset is more prior when it comes to girls. So, and in older age groups, the common issues like forgetfulness or Alzheimer's, they tend to forget things, and all these brain issues starts in the old age time. So it all depends on the age group between men and women, and how people, like how men and women handle it, is the most important thing over here. And many researchers have told that men actually, like old age men tend to suicide in a large scale. Like recent researchers have like told that old age men tend to suicide, and they're not able to talk about whatever they want to, whatever issues they're facing is not able to, they're not able to put it up in the right way or to the right person. So that has become a problem now. And also the roles and responsibilities, the status and power, and the way the biological way of brought up, how they are brought up from their childhood, these all affects on how men and women reach out to help, how they take up of, how they should seek for help, or any things of that sort. All these affects men and women in bringing up something what's bothering them. So, and more often when we talk about men, we are like, we all know that in this society, men have been brought up in households where they are taught and brought up in such a way that they're not supposed to talk about their mental health, or they have no choice of doing that in any such way. So that has always become a weakness for them. And they think that when stereotypical thoughts of this kind are taught to children, or when they have this kind of stigma, it's like men have a point that we are weak, so we have to handle this by ourselves, and we can't reach out to people. And that becomes even more complicated to them, and that causes more of conversation issues. They make it hard to share their feelings with their friends or make friends also. So, and other reasons are societal expectations, traditional gender roles. They make it even more hard to men to seek for mental health help. Yeah. So that's the main reason behind men and women. It's more of same, but it depends on only the age groups. And these reasons of societal norms, or these stereotypical things what ancestors have been brought in, and they tell that men should not cry, or should stay strong, and that's all makes a man weak, and that doesn't allow a man to talk about the issue or whatever.
That was really well summed up. That was really beautiful. And but most of the times, everyone will opt for a way which is more accessible to them based on their gender. That's what I feel. And I would love to hear the opinion of our student panelists too.
So this also brings up one more issue that most of the traditional definitions in psychiatry or psychology of mental health disorders, most of the patterns or traits of the mental health disorders apply to women, and it is most likely the symptoms that men show, as in the externalizing all the issues, they tend to be atypical presentations of the mental health disorders. So this not only becomes more difficult to seek out help, to recognize that something is wrong with boys or men. So they tend to not seek help, but also it this leads to diagnosing the condition by psychologists or psychiatrists much lesser or much later than what is the usual diagnosis time for the female population. So this is the one thing that I wanted to.
The male adults in our families, they mostly never really share their problems with us. So what are the ways we can support them or enable them to talk or reach out?
Usually, men try to fix the problems by themselves. They try to fix whatever the appliances do. Yeah. So they have this pressure that they should be knowing everything, and they should know how to get things done. And they feel embarrassed if they are not able to put up with that image. What I would suggest to encourage or support the males to talk about their feelings or share their problems would be, first is to voice out your observations. That is a very good step to start a conversation about the specific changes in their behavior, rather than suggesting that they might have a depression or anxiety. Not just label them and suggest that they're okay. You seem quite stressed up. Is there anything bothering you? Some questions like these would start up a conversation where they will be comfortable. For example, I see that it has been hard for you to talk about it, but then you are doing great. even baby, whether it is baby steps or not, those are still steps. We could help them with daily tasks, planning, or setting some goals for them to organize their week. It might be a difficult uh, week or a difficult day for them. Sometimes extending a helping hand will itself be therapeutic for them. And the most important thing is that we have to take any references they give of escaping from life, of self-harm or suicide, anything, any signs of that should be taken seriously. We should either take appropriate actions or guide them accordingly. We can't just leave them at bay when they have all such thoughts. We can't just neglect such thoughts and say that you're a man, you'll be okay, you'll be fine. These are very simple thoughts. We can't just invalidate their emotions and experiences. If they're seeking for comfort, we give them that comfort and safe space to share their experiences. So this is with this I conclude my answer. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such amazing tips. So, moving to our next question. So, it would be great if you guys could provide some tips for the parents or family members how they can ensure the health of young boys during their upbringing, their mental health tips for them.
Because small kids and boys and girls learn from the parents and the elderly figures. So being a role model will help them a lot. For children, basically, we can tell stories which can say about toxic masculinity. So picking up stories will be very important there. Like, let's not say Cinderella, where there is a toxic masculinity portrayed there, and being very empathetic to them. Like, see, we can be sympathetic to anybody, but being empathetic is very hard to be towards our own child. Like, understanding their difficulties at school. See, there's a lot of bullying. Like, for example, a lot of boys like pink bottles, take a pink bottles to school. They like to paint their nails, and they also like to play with the dolls. But this leads to bullying, like Joshua mentioned, Amilesh mentioned. So this scars them for life. Listening to what is happening in their school or college can help them understand that there's somebody to understand me. There is somebody that who I can feel safe. This will help the parents. I think it's more of the parents and the guardian figure. They play a role because they are the role model.
So, finally, the last question, like, could you please sum up all the tips for men, the way they can take care of their mental health?
Like that. So what I would probably first say is that express yourself, like be expressive that this is how I feel, and be very open about your feelings. Talk about this is how I feel. And second thing would be like boundaries. Mark your boundaries. See, I'm not very comfortable with this, so no, please don't talk about this to me, especially with the relatives or someone who is commenting about your body or commenting about anything, be it basically negative comments on you. Mark your boundaries. No, sorry, I'm not comfortable when you're talking about this. Please try to be assertive in your communication. This is something that's affecting my mental health. Can you please rephrase your sentence because it affects me? So I feel like expressing yourself and marking boundaries for yourself is the first step for you to take care of your mental health.
So, before I proceed to our last activity, I request the student panelists if you guys have anything to share with us.
Something which is very positive, which I take from my own family and my upbringing, is in our house, we've never really had this whole sort of, gender roles kind of thing. So from a young age, we were always brought up having sensitive conversations where, nothing was held back. Like I was allowed to cry freely at home. I was never, told I can't cry. And I think it's very important to discuss how, we have to behave with one another and discourage abusive behavior. So I felt that it really helped me a better person, I'd say, when my parents, would tell me that, okay, you cannot treat anyone, a boy or a girl, this way. Homophobia was discouraged at a very early age at home. So I think it's on the parents to, sort of positively be positive role models for their children.
Thank you so much, Amlesh. That was really adorable. Each and everything you shared about the way you were brought up, that was seriously, that was beautiful. So now I have one final activity. So our last activity, since it's Father's Day today, and there's no better food for mind than gratitude. So I want to request all the student panelists and even our guest speakers can volunteer too. You guys just have to speak out a short message of gratitude for your dads today.
I would like to say thanks for giving me the enough freedom to explore and go to places. Especially earlier, it wasn't like that. You're not supposed to go and study abroad. You're not supposed to go and study out of the city, right? I think I really want to thank my dad and my parents for giving me the enough freedom to go study wherever I wanted. Not especially in studies. If I wanted to go for a trip, I just tell them and be like, okay, you can go. Just make sure that you're safe. Just go there and ping us, right? And I really wanted to thank them for giving this freedom.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for speaking that up here, considering this a safe space. That really means a lot to me that you spoke these beautiful words here. So even I would like to add something. Like, honestly, like, I am more attached to my dad than my mom. Like, whenever I have to share something, I always share that with my dad first, because he's he's kind of, I am more like him. Like, everyone in my family agrees, and he has always raised me to be an independent person, and he hasn't ever said that you are a girl and these are your roles. Like, yeah, I am really grateful to have him.
I think the one thing I'm really thankful for uh, when it comes to both my parents would be the amount of trust they have in me, because it's not easy to get that from parents. This generation or the next generation or how many other generations, going to come up. When it comes to parents and kids, getting that trust or trusting your kids is a very hard thing. And my parents, I don't know, they sort of do it very easily. I don't know where they have so much confidence, but I'm so glad that they trust me and they let me do what I want to. And even if somebody says something about me, they don't believe it immediately. Rather, they come and talk to me about it first, right? So that's been there like ever since I was 4 years old. Like probably I joined school. So I think that's one thing I'm really, really, really thankful for. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So, Amlesh, you can speak up now.
Thank you. I just want to say thanks to my dad and my mom as well, because I'm equally close to both. And I really feel like their roles have been very supportive of each other in my life as well. Like, one has always supported the other when it comes to bringing up both my sister and I. But to my dad especially, thank you for showing me that it's okay to be sensitive and emotional and a male at the same time, and that there's no harm in crying, there's no harm in breaking down, there's no harm in expressing yourself. But when you express yourself, you must express yourself in the right way and the correct manner and in a polite manner that does not hurt you or anyone else's feelings. So thank you for showing me that sensitivity is an asset and not a flaw. Thank you.
So, thank you so much, everyone, for being here and considering it a safe space, sharing your opinions. And thank you so much, our guest speakers, for enlightening us with all those words of wisdom. That was really, really beautiful. And I truly hope that this session will not just help out those who are watching it now, but those who would be watching the recording later. So, yeah, thank you so much for making it here. And thank you so much for each and everything you said today. So before we end, I would like to request our guest speakers if you guys would like to say something or even any feedback for us.
I think it was really well organized, and you guys are doing an amazing job. And thank you for giving us this platform for Be Evolve Mental Health Services and giving us this platform to talk about men's mental health